Hello everybody and welcome to Cause and Effect, a show about Vetes. Today we are going to talk to you about turbo decks, how to play them and why to play them and why not to play them, I don't know. We're going to probably analyze all kinds of things about them. But first, I would like to introduce my two co-hosts, Adam Esbjörnsson, say hello.
Hello.
And of course, Isak Bjärmark Esbjörnsson, say hello.
Hello.
Okay, so before we dig in this amazing subject, how has your Vetes week been, Isak?
It's been okay since Adam moved here to Gothenburg. I haven't performed as well as I usually do, so I haven't won anything. On the other hand, I've continued my trying out of gargoyles and imbues and stuff, and I haven't gargoyles being top dogs. I haven't really played them before, so it might be that as well. But the synergy is not great for my stats, so it's been okay, learning wise, not result wise.
So no, but you don't want to draw any conclusions about your losing rate to Adam's moving to Gothenburg.
That conclusion was drawn several years ago. They correlate.
Okay. So Adam, have you been performing better then?
No, I don't know. Yeah, we played 4 games last week and managed to eke out a win in 2 of them. And the third, one of them, I think I failed. I could have possibly won it, but of course it was good for me. 50% win is huge. So and it was really great. I got to try out some of the decks I have played in Örebro, but against opponents which I can't be sure what they're playing, since with your own meta you know your opponent's decks, and just trying them out with new people, even if you know the people you're trying out with new decks that you don't know in and out, it gives you valuable learning. So it was a bit unique for me to have a casual game like that. I usually only experience that during tournaments.
Okay.
So how have your week been?
Yeah, I was really busy. I've been working hard with the Swedish Melody Festival, and so I was really tired. But I actually managed to play some this Sunday, and it was good. I won 1 game with a bad deck and lost 1 game with a bad deck. So it was okay.
What was the bad deck?
The bad deck that I won with was a bleed, dominate deck. So
how can it possibly be bad?
I built a few of those.
You play with Petrodon, so it's called
Alonso Petrodon, the Strato.
And you breed with in the station.
Yeah, do you have
dominate masters and
do you have crypt exploration?
No.
That explains a lot.
Captain without crypt exploration, I can see why you would deem it bad.
Yeah, but I actually swept the table, so.
Dominate is the saving grace.
When that was a really good starting hand, and round 3 I had 7 minions or something like that. So it was crazy.
Sounds crazy.
4 maybe. Yeah, whatever. Nobody cares.
But I care. I care about you.
You're so good to me. Okay, so let's do what we were brought here to do.
Do our thing.
Yeah, let's do our thing, Pooty Tanks. Turbo decks. Before we get into them, do you have any personal experience playing turbos? Isak?
Yeah. I've tried out... I built and tried out the one based around the Baron and Possession.
Okay.
The Baron Samdi, that is. I was stupid enough to try it out in at that time, very heavy ally meta. And it's just retarded because the deck relies a lot on Daring the Dawn to get actions through, and Possession is a zero stealth action, so it doesn't matter if they have unmasking or not. Your royal is screwed. So that's my big experience. Then I've done some decks that are not true turbo in the sense that they burn and do action with a new vampire the same turn and continue doing that. I've done some decks around Infernal Servitor, the Daemonian Ally, the new one.
Yeah. Benefit the mage, no? Okay, I can't hear you guys.
That's a problem.
Yeah, okay. Isaac?
Yeah.
Can you speak a little? Okay, now I hear you.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah.
So my own experience is really the Baron, and that wasn't very good.
Okay. Adam, though?
I think I only played... Oh, I played the Sibellatron deck, which is like a slow turbo, not a true turbo. And I played a Jacob the Glitch deck.
Okay.
But my biggest experience, of course, playing against them. I played a lot against Sibellatron slow turbo, and I've faced a few. Like I faced the Baron turbo in a tournament, and I'm pretty sure something else, but I can't remember how it worked.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So my experience is mainly playing against them, and of course reading deck lists and discussions.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so before we start getting into the details, we should probably talk about the big picture of the turbo decks. So, Isaac, would you bring us through the, I was about to say economics, but the machinery, maybe?
Yeah.
The trick.
Yeah, the basic, and this might be known to some of you, but we're going through it just for the sake of completion. So, the key parts being Solar Gem of Ethius and a way to get one more capacity on that vampire with the Soul Gem, and then it's also some way to burn yourself. So those are the three key components. So for instance, you can have the Soul Gem, and you could have say Camarilla Viteslave, which is the Somber Clone card, gives you capacity, and you have Force of Will or Daring the Dawn, something like that. These three in combo gives you an additional capacity, and you play a single Vampire Crypt.
Okay.
And you burn yourself with Daring the Dawn or Force of Will, and the vampire you're trying this out with is Lucita. And then the one in play that just got burned was a 9 cap, and a normal Lucita is 8 cap. So then she's younger. By Soul Gem's card text, she enters play, gets the Soul Gem, get full fresh amount of blood. And this is a way to get vampires for 3, and or it's called circumvent the NRA rule, non-repeat action rule. So you can, the new Lucita that gets into play is allowed to bleed 1 additional time, for instance.
Okay.
And so in theory, you can do this an infinite amount of times, as long as you have the right cards in your hand.
Okay.
That it's theoretically, but practically that's usually not the case.
Okay. Adam, do you have anything to add?
No, this is the basic structure. Of course, there's lots of different ways to make this, like, the components could be different. For instance, you don't necessarily need the Soul Gem to get your vampire back, and you can do it a bit more tricky, like the Baron deck could include other cards like Possession, which Isaac already talked about. But in essence, this is it. You burn your vampire and you bring them back somehow, and they get to bleed once more.
It's basically just to sidestep the NRA, as Isaac said.
Yeah. and or bring additional big vampires for 3.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, we're going to start out. Yeah, we're going to make 3 examples, and we're going to start out with the Lucita deck. So Adam, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Lucita deck?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing we see is like the crypt is really odd. It doesn't look anything like a normal crypt. It just includes 18 copies of Lucita, and this is how you have to play it when you're playing it with Soul Gem Veterans, as this one is, since the first vampire you draw in your your crypt, sorry, has to be the right vampire every single time. If at one point you draw the wrong vampire, you're screwed. So it has to be like that.
Okay. And any reason why they're playing 18?
Supposedly it's the amount he had. I don't. He can
like, if I may.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If you think about it, there's really no rational way or idea or reason to play fewer copies, because there actually are other stuff in the game that can burn stuff from your crypt. So you might as well go to the tournament with 200 Lucitas.
Yeah.
Because you don't lose anything by doing that. Okay. On the other hand, you probably will never ever need more than 10, but better safe than sorry.
Yeah, and you don't want to carry around 200 Lucitas, so maybe
I'd go to a tournament with 200 Lucitas.
Yeah, this is one of the cases where your deck size can be actually your deck can be thought about in like a practical sense.
Yeah.
You might be limited by how many copies you have, for instance. But yeah, as Isaac says, this 10 Camarilla Beta Slaves, you can do the trick 10 times, and that means you only need 10 in your uncontrolled region. So the crypt of 16 would have been enough.
Yeah. So anyway, why Lucita? What's so great about her?
She has superior fortitude, and she is a La Sombra. That's like she's the youngest one with these qualities. Possibly even the older one, I don't know. But yeah, you need to be La Sombra for the Camarilla Vita Slave, and you need to be able to play Freak Drive. There are vampires, like Aurora Van Brand has inferior Freak Drives, she's a 6 cap. You could play it with inferior fortitude, and it could work, but if you're blocked, you're like royally screwed. So it's just a safety precaution to just choose superior fortitude. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, bring me through the trick with this and this turbo trick.
Yeah. So you bring out Lucita as fast as you can. You get Soul Gem. That's your first action. You play a Freak Drive.
Okay, but you have to have Soul Gem on your hand, or?
Yeah. Or in this case, you play with Vast Wealth. So you could play it on her and then get a Soul Gem, since that's the only equipment with the Vast Wealth action.
Okay.
So you have 9 copies of cards on 90 cards. That's a fair chance. I think you could construct a deck to have a better chance of getting the right cards, but as it is, it seems to work. He won the tournament. I don't know. Yeah, you play the Freak Drive after the Soul Gem action. You go down to 7 blood. After that, you get Camarilla Vitae Slave. Again,
how does Camarilla Vitae Slave work?
It's a retainer that gives you 1 capacity, costs 2 blood, and you can choose a discipline which you have inferior of and gain superior of it in your untap phase.
No, monster phase.
Monster phase. Okay. I'll bring it up like this.
In this deck is actually, which could be kind of ironic, I think, the 2 blood cost is very good, because you need to get Lucita to 1 blood essentially, or maybe 2 blood, to actually be able to burn her.
Mm-hmm.
A full-blooded Lucita is more or less unburnable.
Yeah, it's a really big point, as Isaac says. Which is why I'm keeping track of the blood when I'm explaining this. Since after you play the Camarilla Vita Slave, you get a Freak Drive. That's another 3 blood. Her 7 goes down to 4. You play an Embrace, And this action is actually only in the deck to remove blood from Lucita. If you could have, you would have wanted to not play with Embrace to make the trick more certain. But as it is, you need to play the Embrace and then Freak Drive. That's another 3 blood. 3. And you go down to 1 blood. No, sorry, I'm being stupid, I think. I'm not supposed to play a Freak Drive after that Embrace. Yeah, that Embrace, you're not supposed to Freak Drive. It costs 2 blood, you get down to 2 blood. And she's tapped. At which point she bleeds with Force of Will, which costs 1 blood, and you play Conditioning, which costs 1 blood. So she's a 0 blood, and can either burn by the Force of Will inferior, or can play Daring the Dawn to burn.
Yeah, so basically just try to take her out, make her lose all her blood, and burn her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for each Lucita, each time you burn her, you get an additional Embrace into play. Those can't bleed that turn, they are forced to hunt, but if you, for any reason, need to pause your turn, the next time it's your turn, you have an additional amount of bleed as in the amount of Embraces you got, and they can work as rush defense, possibly rescue her from torpor, or diablerize her in torpor and stuff like that, if you end up in a situation where you for some reason can't trigger the soul gem. They can be problem solvers in that way.
Okay. So how about
Pentix and such?
Yeah, so how about like the other parts of the deck that's not like enticed to the trick? What do I have, Isaac?
We have some stealth, enforced marsh. I really don't know why, but I guess it's for managing the blood.
DI possibly?
Or DI maybe. But then on the other hand, you need to play so many Freak Drives and you actually need them to lose your blood. You need to lose your blood in order to be able to burn, so they might not help anyways. But more to the point, what I think is more important is the 1 distraction and the 3 Hourglass of the Mind. In my opinion, these should be a lot more, but they are very helpful because this is very, very dependent upon the card flow of the deck. And I can't stress this enough. It's very important because with this many moving parts on a 90 card deck, you could have problems getting the right cards in the right order for the right flow. What Adam described was more or less a 6 card combo, I think, maybe even 7 card combo. And getting that 7 card combo in the right order is essential to pull off the death with the soul gem and getting a new Lucita. And then you need the same 7 card combo once again. So having the ability to draw and discard cards as an action mid-turn is very important, I think.
Also, I think like the action card, Hourglass of the Mind, Distraction, Mind and Horseseed. Also, Vast Wealth can serve this purpose, is that the new Lucita that comes out from the Soul Gem will go to 8 blood per card text of Soul Gem, and but this Lucita won't have to get a Soul Gem, so when the trick is over and done, or when you're going to start bleeding, she'll be tapped with 3 blood, not 2 blood, which means she can't burn solely with Force of Will inferior and Conditioning. It actually needs a Daring to Dawn to burn. So Distraction, Hourglass of the Mind, Mylon and Vast Wealth are all actions that Lucita can take and then play Freak Drive to lose a blood. Or in Distraction's case, lose 2 blood. So it works like... I think... I'm not sure how the reasoning goes, but I hope and think that's the reason why the deck is like this. Is that it gives you more options to burn her, to have these extra actions.
Okay.
Obviously, if you stealth with her, you lose blood. Shadow.
Shouldn't you? Yeah, but couldn't you like play govern?
The Force of Will action is an action card.
Okay, but
Force
you
of
can
Will can be used tapped, and Govern can't, so then you need even more Freak Drives. And it's an even longer combo in terms of the number of cards you need.
Okay. There was mainly you can have something to gain pool of or something, but maybe that's not good. I don't know.
Yeah, you could have the Dark Mirror of the Mind.
Yeah, Dark Mirror of the Mind would be awesome.
Yes, I think that would be better than Mile and Horseseed at least, and better than Vast Wealth. But
you have to think. Yeah, thing is, Lucita's only an 8 cap, so when you transfer her into play, you're at 22 pool.
Yeah, but I mean, you can always use more pool, and you have to lose some blood. So
and each Lucita can bleed for 5 if Inferior Force Will is used, otherwise it's 6. So that's actually kinda a lot of pool damage, and that's each new Lucita can do that.
yeah, but we can talk about weaknesses, which we come again to.
Yeah.
And that's obviously, if Lucita goes into torpor with 0 blood, you won't be able to burn her just like do an action, or what will you? If you manage to get some embraces out, they could diabolize her, you could bring out a new one, and that's like the easiest fix, I think. Or if you table talk someone else into diabolizing her or rescuing her, depending on. And this you might be forced to do several times during a game, and in that case the pool gain would be useful. I don't know, what do you think?
I don't know.
Peter, meth is one hell of a drug.
It is. I'm inclined to disagree, but solely on card flow issues. Like, in my opinion, you need to have this trick, and you need to have the deck as neat and as streamlined as possible, and only do what you are meant to do, and only do that. Because otherwise, you will have card flow issues, and I think that's a bigger problem actually than every once in a while gaining 2 pool. Like, starting off at 22 is kind of excessive, and since she has an 8 cap, there's a very big chance that you actually get her out in 2 turns and start bleeding and doing all the stuff in turn 3, which is really fast, really. I think no, I don't like it.
Yeah. As I said, the deck, the Hourglass of the Mind gets you discard 3 cards, right?
Yes.
And distraction is 5 cards. That's 14 cards in total. 5 soul gems, 6 stealth cards, 4 shadow body. I think you have discard enough, and you could add more discard cards, like 1 more distraction.
I'd probably play 3 or 4 of each.
Yeah.
To start with, just because then you can constantly change your hand. And since every new Lucita can play 1 distraction and 1 Hourglass of the Mind each, so each Lucita can cycle 8 cards for you.
Yeah, that's probably better than having Dark Mirror of the Mind. It kind of fits well into the strategy, like fits at all into the strategy.
Yeah. And remove some Vast Wealth. Well, whatever. Yeah, you can tweak this deck. That's not why we're here, but awesome. Okay. Any other weaknesses that we want to discuss, Isaac?
It's a one-trick pony with essentially 0 defense. So, for instance, a Pentex is devastating.
Yeah.
So if you are, this is how we won an 18-player tournament. That is one of those tournaments where you, after the first round, if you are not unlucky, you probably know what every player plays, because you have the opportunity to scout, or you discuss with some friend of yours, and you know what everybody plays. So if you know there's a Lucita Turbo and you start off with Pentex on your opening hand, or you get it very early on, you will get the Pentex on Lucita, and no one wants to remove it. Yeah. And no one should remove it either, because...
At least not until around 6 or 7.
Yeah, because it's very, very hard to keep this kind of deck in check. If you play an ally deck that blocks some, I think you have a decent shot, because the Darings doesn't help and very few stealth cards. So playing some wallish ally deck might keep this turbo deck in check, but most decks just have to take it.
Yeah.
Lucita advanced card text, like the cancelling reaction cards by youngish vampires, could be a problem if you face someone using like dominate sidekicks with deflection for defense or something like that. So you always have to keep that in mind.
Okay, what card text exactly is that? Adam?
Right, yeah. It's once each action Lucita performs, she may burn 2 blood to cancel a reaction card played by a vampire with capacity less than 6 as it is played. So quite often that's like the less than 6, 5 or lower is normally what you want to stay on top with.
Yeah.
So I think you might get to use a special quite often actually, if you have the blood for it.
Yeah.
You're actually not bleeding.
When neighbor John tries to send your bleeds away.
Yes, possibly at that moment.
Yes.
But that you have 2 blood when you're bleeding, I don't think that's that common though.
No. You might opt not to play an Embrace and use that card text instead.
Yeah, but then they shouldn't play a reaction card because then you can't burn.
And then the trick is over.
It's better to...
You don't have to burn on the bleed action, right? You can burn on some other action if you're daring.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can just free try and do something else.
Yeah, you can wait another turn.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly then, Adam, how do you play it?
Bring her out, get Soul Gem, get Vita Slave, get an Embrace, bleed with Force of Will and Conditioning, and then you do the same thing, but without the Soul Gem, until you run out of cards. And I think you should play these Distraction and Outlaws of the Mind. They should be played as soon as you have 2 or 3 of the uncyclable cards. Of these I mean Stealth, extra Soul Gems and Shadow Body, Master cards as well. So when you know that you're going to be able to use Outlaws of the Mind or Distraction, at least for the most part, for something useful, then you should play these instead of some other part of the trick, but just fit them in wherever you can, really. All it costs is 1 conditioning less for that next bleed, and you can save that conditioning later, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Isak, do you have anything to add before we move on?
No. I think that's about it, when it comes to this deck at least.
Okay. So it's basically a basic turbo, you can say.
Yeah. This is one of the most common ones. It's not as common because Camarilla Vita Slave is one of the most expensive cards in the game when it comes to real life money. But other than that, I think this would be very popular or common to see.
Yeah.
Because it works very well for a turbo.
Well, it's the easiest one at least.
You can say it's pretty fly for a white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's a girl.
And yeah, okay.
I think we should move on.
I think you really nailed the joke.
Yeah, you guys suck. Work with a studio audience. We have another deck. One of our good friends, Påskman, Easterman, favorite decks. It's the slow turbo Sibel deck. Isak, would you do us the honor and explaining a little bit about this deck?
First off, then I need to explain what a slow turbo is. This is not as well defined of a term as turbo is. A slow turbo is essentially you're doing the trick we just talked about, but you don't try to do it several times each turn. You do it maybe once, twice, or possibly 3 times per game. But you use it to gain pool and gain some free minions. So this is based around Sibel, though there are 1 Nurgle guest starring this deck. And basic idea is more or less the same, but the capacity is gained through a skill card, in this case celerity. Those most discipline cards should probably be 6 different disciplines, probably. But anyways, you gain you put the discipline cards on Cybele. She becomes a 12 cap. She gets the soul gem. She uses Truth of Thousand Lies to untap. She bleeds. She untaps. She gets the Great Beast. Since she's a 12 cap, you get 12 counters, and she burns straight away, bringing most likely new Cybele into play. That Cybele can bleed as well, and the Great Beast can bleed as well.
Okay.
So
Maybe we should take up Great Beast and
yes,
and show him to the world before we move on.
So
Adam, what's Great Beast? How does it work?
Right, you put call the Great Beast in action that you put on the Bali that gets it, and put as much counters on it as that Bali has capacity. If the numbers of counters on it is 11 or more, or exceeds 10, you get a clanless new vampire with 3 disciplines of your choice that has a rush and 4 strength and 3 bleed, and it's infernal. And the minion who got it, the Bali with the Call the Great Beast, burns in the process of creating this new minion. And yeah, that's it basically.
Yeah. So basically, the trick is. Isak, go on. I'm sorry.
So through this discipline cards, Soul Gem and Great Beast trigger a new Cybele into play, and you get an additional bleed attempt with the Great Beast, who can bleed for 5 himself, and you have a new Cybele which also can bleed for 5. So first turn you have a pool damage of 13 to prey. Hopefully you prey.
No promises.
And going from there, you have a very strong, like you see the Asher Tablets. There are no liquidation in this deck, but you have the Asher Tablets and the Anthelios, and you have Redeem the Lost Soul, which is a neat card. Can be used on the burned Cybele to gain 5 pool. And from there, you have 2 guys in play that can bleed for 3 each, plus Truth of 1,000 Lies, and you just keep the treasure high. You have Golconda, you have which you can use on Great, which you want to use on Great Beast, preferably because it removes the vampire from the game and doesn't burn him. So the Golconda can't trigger a Soul Gem. So if you want to do the trick one more time, you can villain for a lot, and then Golconda, Great Beast, and then have Cybele go and create a new Great Beast, and have a skill card, of course. And this way, you gain the same setup. Both of them have a full amount of blood. You have a lot more pool, and you can keep on bleeding. So the biggest defense in this deck, so to speak, is the amount of pool and the rush that the Great Beast has.
Okay. Yeah. So, Adam. Oh, sorry, I have to check my papers.
It's okay.
Okay. So what's the strength and weaknesses of this deck compared to the other turbo deck?
Well, this one does the same thing every turn, and it kind of resets every turn as well. So it's like it has more longevity. The Lucita deck might work for one turn, you get to do some things, and then you'll stop due to card flow, and then you might get another turn that could be good, but after that you're most likely your deck is emptied or whatever. But with the Cybelatron slow turbo deck, you don't have that problem. You can actually take a Pentex and then just try to cycle up your own, or try to fish for Nurgle, or just try to stay alive and bloat a bit and wait it out, and then when you get it off you can continue doing whatever you want to do. Since you have the big pool buffered and you can just... well, it's resilient in that way. Not sure how to put it in words. I'm being a bit stupid, but yeah, more or less it has. It's more resilient than a regular turbo. Obviously, it doesn't do infinite pool damage the first turn, but 13 is quite formidable as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Another thing that what you touched on is that it can keep the pressure up, since Cybele bleeds for 3, and the Great Beast also bleeds for 3. So you have 2 guys in play that both have Obfuscate, and you bleed for 3 with each without any cards, and that's very, very strong compared to Lucita. So with Lucita deck, you have Lucita plus the amount of embraces you managed to produce, and it's very unlikely that you very quick get 5 additional embraces to get the same perma-bleed on the table. That's 6. You have to do the trick 5 times over.
Yeah.
And that's very unlikely. In this case, you just have to have this, the Soul Gem, the skill card, and the Great Beast, and that's the combo.
Yeah. Okay. So, Adam, weaknesses then?
Well, obviously, it has the weaknesses of like drawing the wrong cards. If you don't get the Soul Gem or Magic Smith and call Great Beast, you won't be able to do the trick. And if you can't do the trick immediately, it's gonna get really slow, because S13 is quite nice. Just doing 3 for a few turns is really horrible. You don't have a fallback now. You have only Cybele and maybe Nurgle eventually, but you can't count on including Nurgle in that equation. So it can be really, really slow if you get the wrong draw, and you won't be able to win before timeout.
Okay, so how can you prevent from the wrong draw? Why doesn't it up the amounts of Soul Gems and magics?
I think it...
5 Dreams to Swings.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just increased the amount of dreams instead of any other card.
Okay.
And it's the same amount, more or less, than that was in the Lucita deck. This is 2 Soul Gems and 4 Magical Smith. That's 6 and 64. And the other one had 6 plus 3 in 90. So that's more or less 10% in each deck.
Yeah.
So it's quite similar, actually.
Okay. He uses, as you said, 4 Medical Smith and 2 Soul Gems. Why not just 6 Soul Gems or 5 Medicals or something like that?
The Magic the Smith is... Well, the first, most obvious part is the stealth. It's a 3 stealth action at the Spirit Thaumaturgy.
Yeah.
But something that's also easy to overlook is that getting Magic the Smith and fetching Soul Gem from your library, contra just getting a Soul Gem with the action card instead of playing Magic the Smith, you get to remove a card from your library. So in a way, you remove 2 cards from your library to get the effect, and it'll just make the deck run more smoothly to get a more slim deck at no cost, basically.
Yeah.
Another thing that, but this is more on a concept level sort of thing, is that playing in this kind of turbo or slow turbo deck, you actually get to use your Master Phase action. The more common and the usual turbo deck don't have any use of the Master Phase, because Master just clogs the hand and is an issue with card flow. In this deck, you really excel in your Master Phase. You play the discipline cards, you have the Asher tablets, you have Pentix, you have Golconda, Redeem the Lost Soul. All of this, and the Villain, all of this really helps the deck a lot, especially with the longevity, as Alan said. An Asher tablet being very great would redesign your library to fit your opponents.
Yeah. Okay, so then, like, quickly, I think you touched on the subject, and it's getting like it's the same thing. How do you play it, Isaac?
Bring out Cybele. She gets Soul Gem. She untaps through 1,000 lights. She bleeds. She untaps. She gets, before this, she has to have a skill card, so she sees an 11 cap, and she gets to call the Great Beast. Great Beast comes into play. Cybele burns. New Cybele turns up. bleed for 5 with one Cybele, bleed for 5 with one Great Beast.
Yeah,
and then you just play the game. This is a stealthy deck with that trick, so in times of need you can villain Great Beast really hard and then do Golconda and then essentially gain something like 15 pool from him.
Also, to Golconda the Great Beast is actually like a pool gain thing. Since you can't get you can't do a new Call the Great Beast with Cybele if there's already a Great Beast in play. You need to Golconda him to get another round of 13 pool damage. So if you have the card for it available, you can Golconda Great Beast for increased pool damage that turn.
Yeah, and you gain the 15 pool, or somewhere around that part. Yeah, it's it.
And something also has to note with this deck is that Call the Great Beast does not require you to be at some specific amount of blood to burn. So it's a bit easier to burn in this deck. You could just get the play the skill card, get the soul gem, untap, and then burn immediately if you want to. You don't need to do some other action first.
Okay. But isn't like so this is like the concept of a slow turbo. But when you start playing this deck and you maybe play 2-3 rounds at capacity, I mean doing a lot of pool damage, then people will know that you won't get a lot of table hate with this deck, Adam.
I think the biggest table hate is the bloating. This deck, I've seen it go up to 40-50 pool many games. Pool damage for 13, which you can deflect 5 at a time of, is not too much. I think that's what you should expect to get as pressure from a bleeding predator. Like a stealth bleed deck, that's not extraordinary by any means. But the bloating could definitely cause a lot of extra, like the one from a kind resource contested to go in a deck like this, because it has so much pool. Everyone would have to work so much to oust this deck in the duel. So I think table aggro, absolutely, but for a different reason. The bloating is really bad.
And you can also utilize the rush a lot. If you're in a villain heavy meta, and usually people villain and go down to 3 or 4 blood, play a few bleed cards, go down to 1 or 2 blood, a rush with is this for 3 strength from the Great Beast? It's a torporized opponent. So the rush could help you even further, that in the way that your predator has fewer minions to bleed you with, and that way your amount of pools seems even bigger because the fewer minions to dish out pool damage each turn.
Okay. Yeah. Any last words before our break?
No.
No.
Stay tuned.
I will.
Yeah. So after the break, we're going to talk more about turbos and talk a little bit more about different tricks you can do with the turbo. So as we said, stay tuned, and we'll be back.